Tansei, welcome to Métis Minute, your source for Métis news in Region 7. Today, I wanted to bring you footage from a recent all-candidates meeting that was held by the Barrie South Simcoe Métis Council. They invited all of the candidates for Region 7 Councillor, along with the candidates for PC-MNO Vice Chair. The event was moderated by Hank Rawlinson, who is the chair of the PC-MNO. In attendance was President Margaret Froh, who shared some words of encouragement for candidates and voters. So for those of you still unsure who you would like to vote for, please enjoy the 2024 Region 7 PC-MNO All Candidates meeting.
My name's Roxanne Shank. I'm president of Barrie Métis Council. And on behalf of all of the Region 7 councils, we're so grateful for your participation. With no more ado, I want to give a warm welcome to our president, Margaret Froh.
Bon après-midi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's lovely to be here with you all today, and my sincere apologies, I was a few minutes late pulling up. I was going to the wrong place. But I am in the right place, and I know I am, because we've got a whole bunch of Métis gathered today to talk about our election. And I wanted to thank the council for inviting me to come along and just say a few words to maybe set a little bit of context for what the next 4 years looks like for the Métis Nation of Ontario. It is, oh, and of course I want to start by acknowledging the prayer. So my apologies for that. Thank you very much, Karen, for the beautiful opening prayer. And just for folks that are showing up today, I think this is a wonderful thing. The fact that people are coming out, that, there you are. The fact that people are coming out, that they're engaged, that they want to participate in the dialogue that we've been, well, for the last 30 years we've been engaged in across the MNO, but I would say for the last 4 or 5 years in earnest, really starting to dig in on the future of the Métis Nation of Ontario, the thing that it is that we want to build, right? Where it is that we're heading. And we've undertaken some really incredible things. Over the last 30 years, we've undertaken some really incredible things, not the least of which was Barrie, and leading the entire Métis Nation in securing that recognition of Métis rights for Métis right across the Métis Nation homeland. But all the things that we've done since then, so we've had that success in Barrie, and we've built on it. Success by success by success. We build incrementally on that. And as a result, you've seen the Métis Nation of Ontario really showing leadership, not just in the advancement of rights, but also in other areas as well. We were the first Métis government to create, for example, a lands, resources, and consultations branch to support the duty to consult and accommodate, as an example. But there are many other things that the MNO has done really, really well, done really strategically in order to get us to where we are today. And where we are today is an incredible place. I will say it's not without its challenges. And if you are following the news at all, there's people beating up on us once again. You know, the good news, I suppose, is that we're Métis and we're used to people beating up on us. We have 200 years of history of people denying who we are, of denying our history, denying the role that we've played in this country, not just historically, but the role that we play today. And that's an unfortunate reality. And I guess you could say, unfortunately, it's something we're quite familiar with. The good news is we're an incredibly resilient people. And you don't have to look very far for many examples of that, including in our leadership here in the region. And I want to acknowledge the Barrie South Simcoe Métis Council is my local council. And it's part of a very vibrant Region 7 community. A couple of nights ago, I was at another event really promoting our artists. And I want to acknowledge Jordy and all those folks that organized that event. I thought it was incredible. And part of that evening was a concert with this amazing Métis fiddler, a young man by the name of Alex Kusterel. And he brought music from Alberta, but he also brought musicians from PEI and Newfoundland, and there was a really incredible concert that was provided. And the room was packed. It was totally filled to the rafters. There were standing ovations. We actually got him to play again at the end. I always consider that a successful standing ovation. But it was a night that I didn't want it to end. And you saw so many smiling faces, tapping feet, people getting up in the aisle and jigging. And that's that Métis spirit that is part of our history. It's in our DNA, it's part of our heritage. And we see that loud and strong. So while we might be, if you do, if you're out there on social media, not something that I really encourage these days, but if you're out on social media and you're seeing the haters, because there are folks out there that are trying to stop the Métis from achieving, they're trying to stop the recognition of our rights, remember that we have a lot of work still to do. I know we've been engaged in educating for a very long time. We still have a lot of work to do to let people know who we are and why we're recognized within the Constitution, why we have rights, what all of that is based on. Turning more inward, when I think about the next 4 years, we've got some amazing things underway. We've been very successful securing 2 self-government agreements signed with the Government of Canada. They're recognizing our jurisdiction when it comes to our citizenship, when it comes to how we govern ourselves. Governance like we're doing today, right? Bringing the people together to have a voice. And I think that's the point that President Shanks was talking about. Your questions, your participation is so important in our democracy. But also how we elect our leaders, and we're in the midst of that right now. We are exercising our jurisdiction, as we have for 30 years, as a Métis government, to elect leaders, and that's the reason that we're here today. And I want to acknowledge everyone that's running for office, everyone that has run and been acclaimed as well. It's such an important part of our democracy, so important. And then, of course, the 4th area of jurisdiction that those agreements recognize is our right to take care of our children and our young people. There are far too many Métis that end up in a system that doesn't recognize them, that doesn't support them, that doesn't give them a good, healthy start. So these self-government agreements are really important. And our ability to implement these self-government government agreements are really important. It is about taking care of our people. It's about charting a really good path forward. And we're going to be starting some of that important work, implementing our self-government agreement this year in earnest, in creating dialogues around our Constitution. What do we want that future Métis government under self-government to look like? We're going to be building that together. And so that's a major piece of work that we're going to be undertaking over the course of the next couple of years. Another piece that we are doing as part of that 2nd self-government agreement that we signed a year ago in February of last year is actually building and signing, getting to securing a modern-day self-government treaty with the Government of Canada. And can you imagine, like even 5 years ago, if you would have said, what's the likelihood of Canada entering into self-government treaty negotiations with the Métis Nation? I would have said that's a lovely idea, but I think we're so far away from that. But we're there right now. So that's another really important piece of work that we're doing. Under our self-government agreement, we're going to be building out several laws, core laws, those core governance laws that reflect the authority or jurisdiction that Canada has recognized, including our citizenship law. And we've already done a huge amount of work towards that in the plebiscite that we just had. And I want to acknowledge everyone that turned out to vote for that plebiscite. We had an incredible turnout. And we heard loud and clear from our citizens. We want to continue moving forward, representing rights-bearing Métis people in this province, advancing Métis rights, including the right of self-determination, the right of self-government. So we're well on our way when it comes to citizenship law. There's other laws that we're going to be building out as well, including a new election law as an example. But there's lawmaking that we're going to be undertaking. So Constitution, lawmaking that we're going to be undertaking. And then I think the 3rd piece, there's a lot of work that we have to do. Just so you know, there's not just a few things on our plates. There's a lot of things on our plates. But the 3rd thing that I really want to mention today, because it is so incredibly important, is that resolution that we passed at our assembly last fall. I call it the Telling Our Stories resolution. It's a long one. I was just on a Zoom call with all of our staff. We had over 300 staff on a call yesterday, and I was talking about this, and I said, come back to that resolution, that Telling Our Stories resolution. And I had to put a link in there to those resolutions. It actually is page 2 through 6 of the list of decisions that came up. It's a long resolution. It's a long resolution because it's an important resolution. And it talks about how critically important it is. And if anything that Bill C-53, our self-government law, has taught us is that we've got, as I said before, we've got a lot of education work to do with folks, including parliamentarians. And we're working on it. We are really working on it, like hundreds of meetings with parliamentarians, and I think there's slowly some awareness growing on Parliament Hill. But that Telling Our Stories resolution is all about really strengthening the recognition of our historic Métis communities, including this historic Métis community in Ontario. So telling the story of this historic Métis community and the communities that are a part of it today, as well as, and doing that out at a community level, sharing it outside with the world, as well as doing more and more of that work with our citizens so that we're telling the community story through your stories as well. What's your family story? How does that plug into the story of the broader historic community? There's a ton of work to do under that resolution, but I really wanted to come back to that because the strength of our democracy, the strength of our government, the strength of that future that we're building is all rooted, it's all forward-looking, but it's all rooted in our past. It's rooted in the history of our ancestors. And the story, it's an incredible story. This historic community has an incredible story, as do they all. But if you link to this community, or you link to any other historic Métis community in Ontario, or you link to a historic Métis community west of Ontario, they're beautiful, diverse stories that talk about our strength as a people, that talk about our perseverance, that talk about our vision, that talk about our feistiness, that talk about our stubbornness, and I'm reclaiming the term stubborn. As I've said before, if you've ever met my mother, you'll understand why. But it's that stubbornness, frankly, that has kept us alive, our culture, our history alive to this day, and it's that stubbornness that actually will carry us into the future. So for the next few years, we've got a lot of work to do, building a constitution, building out those laws, telling those stories, and really supporting a good, strong dialogue within our communities, but also telling that story to others, right? To our First Nations kin, for example, to those other municipal governments and citizens within Ontario, telling those stories so that people have a stronger understanding, so that they understand how important it is that they start to change their structures to recognize and reflect us, that they understand that when they're dealing with Métis people, who we are, what our history is. And that's, as I said, that's just a few of the things that we're undertaking, but I would say some of the very most important things that we're going to be undertaking over the course of the next 4 years. So I hope that helps in terms of your conversation today, maybe some of the questions that you might be asking candidates, things that you'll reflect on as you're thinking about who do I want to vote for our Métis government as we move forward. And with that, all of that, Madam President, I will just say welcome. I'm so glad to see so many people here. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the candidates talk about their vision and all of you ask your very important questions so that we can have a really good dialogue. So, merci. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So my name is Hank Rollinson, and I'm very humbled to be acclaimed as a PCMO youth rep. But I'm here today to moderate, and I do want to thank those that sent me emails and all on social media words of encouragement, like we have you for another 4 years. It's very touching. So anyway, we're here to listen to the candidates that are running in Region 7, and we have 2 candidates that are running for Vice Chair provincially. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today. It's I know it's a windy day, but it's very encouraging to see this many citizens come out to a candidate's town hall. I just want to run through the rules a bit. The council has set up, each candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. Deb will be our minute taker. So when she stands up and raises that little X, that means you have 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, she will cut you off. It's not being disrespectful. We just want to make sure that each candidate has an equal amount of time. So it's not being disrespectful, it just, your 2 minutes or your 5 minutes are up. So each question, there are a number of questions that the council has sent to each of the candidates prior to. We will go through those first. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. If we have time, then we can take a few questions from the floor. And what we are going to do, what I've done in the past, is we'll start with the 2 provincial candidates that are running for vice chair, And we're gonna go in order that they're gonna be on the ballot, which is alphabetical order based on last name. And I'm not gonna ask this, every time we come to a question, the same order. The next question, we'll start from the bottom and work our way up as well. So the same person not answering the same question all the time. So are any questions before we start? And I would just ask everybody, you know, this is a safe place. So if we're going to ask questions, let's have a professional decorum and not attack anybody. These people are running, putting their name forward to represent you, and they should be encouraged instead of put down. So let's make sure that we have a safe place for everybody here. And if the question's out of line, I will ask that you not ask the question or ask it in a different way. So at this time, I'm going to ask the first candidate, which is Sharon Cadeau for Vice Chair. She'll have 5 minutes to introduce herself.
Thank you so much. My name is Sharon Cadeau. I'm running for re-election as Vice Chair of the Métis Nation of Ontario. My ancestral home is here in Georgian Bay. I come from 3 family lines, Gendreau, Laramie, and Vassier. I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, because my dad was in the military. So I got to travel around a lot and even lived overseas. So I was very lucky. A very different life. But when I talk about my life, I talk about also too not getting to know your aunties and your cousins and that kind of stuff, because we didn't live around any of them. My dad, and I think this is something that all of you can probably relate with, or maybe, that it was a secret my father kept about being Métis. He didn't tell anybody, and I had no idea. Me and my sister would look at him and go, doesn't he look like Indian? You know what I mean? Like we would say those things. Who knew? Who knew? Like we had no idea, right? So he was able to keep it a secret. When we moved here, he would go up north. It was like a magical place, you know, like none of us were invited. So we never got to meet that side of the family. It wasn't until my grandfather passed away at the funeral I got to meet my aunt, my distant family, and my great aunt. She said, oh, and we're Métis, and I'm like, what? So it was a big experience for me. But I've been involved with the Métis Nation of Ontario since I got my card, even before that I could say, because I got my card in 2001, but in 2000 I was still involved with, I was living in Region 8, so we only had one council at the time, and it was Toronto Council, so I would go to their events, and I was instrumental in having Credit River Council in Oshawa, so it was like more, I guess, easier for people to go to, because not everybody likes to go to Toronto. So I was the founding president of the Credit River Métis Council. And in 2005, I was elected as a regional councillor for Region 8, and then in 2008, I was elected as vice chair of the Métis Nation of Ontario. So when we go back to our re-registration, that was a decision that was that I put on the table back then, because sitting around the table, and I don't know, it was a very different place to be, because there was people there that were non-verified, like what we call non-verified people, that had a different view for the Métis Nation going forward. They wanted to change the registry in order to suit them. And that's not what the greater people wanted. So I put that in 2017, put the resolution on the floor at our PCMNO table to have people re-registered and we gave them, I think, a year to find their files in order to sit there, which we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't do that. So I'm very proud to be a part of that. And along with the chair, we've been working together on the Métis Rules of Order. They should be going to the AGA this summer. and creating the code of conduct, which is, I've heard through many people, is much needed. So I was a municipal law enforcement officer in my professional career. I retired after 32 years. I found that part of my life helps me with what I do now. And I think that will be it.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay. Okay, our next candidate for vice chair is Mr. Ron Lepage.
Thank you, Senator, for the opening prayer. It was very welcome and very lovely. Hello, my name is Ron Lepage. I'm a descendant of the Trudeau and the Beausoleil root ancestors from Drummond Island. My family has been a Penetanguishene ever since the arrival in 1828 of the Drummond Islanders. Through 6 generations now, my family has been active in commercial fishing and continues today to be the last Métis commercial fishing family on Georgian Bay. If you have been to one of the Georgian Bay Métis Council's rendezvous held at Discovery Harbour and enjoyed the fish dinner, you would have seen members of my family and I preparing and serving the meal. However, my chosen career was in nursing, and I worked for 42 years as a registered practical nurse in various settings. The last 23 years at Waypoint Centre in Penetanguishene, where I retired in 2020. I grew up knowing that I was Métis. Even before the formation of the Métis Nation of Ontario, my father acknowledged that his great-grandmother was Ojibwe and that he and his family were Métis. That likely explains why my Aunt Helen Bradley, my father's sister, was involved with the building of the Métis Nation of Ontario from the grassroots up, working with Tony Belcourt from his attic. She was also the one who championed the Midland and Penetang communities to form a council and led the way to the Georgian Bay Métis Council becoming a charter council of the Métis Nation of Ontario. She also served as the GBMC senator and later as senator on the PCMNO. I am proud today to be currently serving as the chair of the Georgian Bay Métis Council and have been in that role for 6 years. Our council is very active. I could go on and on describing the many projects, events, workshops, and assistance that have been offered to and benefited our elders, the unhoused, two-spirit LGBTQ+ citizens, and our youth. If you go to the GBMC Facebook page, you will see firsthand many of the initiatives, activities, and community supports that the GBMC have sponsored and continue to sponsor. I am running to become the next PCMNO Vice Chair. What do you believe are the key roles of the Vice Chair? One that I believe in is the Vice Chair supports processes to ensure that everyone's voice is heard, goals are accomplished, and decisions are implemented. I will be your strong voice on the PCMNO and will work on your behalf to make a difference for you. What is your top priority that you want addressed at the PCMNO table? Share your top priority with me and let us work on it together. Support me, Ron Lepage, for PCMNO Vice Chair to be your voice at the table.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Now we're going to move on to the PCMNO Region 7 Councillor. And first up would be Mr. Greg Garrett.
Thank you, Chair Holmes. Hello, and Tom C, everybody. Thanks to Barrie Council for hosting this all candidates meeting. It's appreciated. My name is Greg Garrett. I'm the proud citizen from Penetanguishene and descendant of the verified family lines to Zone, Claremont, and Beausoleil. I'm currently the president of Georgian Bay Métis Council and the captain of the hunt for Region 7. I've held these roles since 2009 and 2012, respectively. Prior to being back on the GBMC, I was on the Veterans Council for almost 8 years in virtually every executive position I could. I have 15 years of experience in leadership, all combined. Bill 153, a bill recognizing our unique governance structure and self-government, asserts our right to be recognized as a nation within a nation, and Bill C-53 is an act respecting the recognition of certain Métis governments. These are important in our Métis communities and have been part of supporting these journeys in the self-government process and workplace. We need to have a representation with a proven long-term record of hard work for our citizens when Bill C-53 passes. I'm a Moxon's on-the-ground leader with the Métis community. I have and always will be a priority to me. I've led and overseen numerous events, activities, presentations, workshops. I've met with thousands of citizens over the years And some of the initiatives and projects I've endorsed and successfully completed as president or captain of the hunt, and I've reduced them, so I'm just going to shorten the list a bit for time saving. The Every Child Matters House project, which we've raised over $50,000 for currently. 3 rendezvous since 2019 at Discovery Harbour and Penetang Machine. Requesting the AGA to be hosted in our region, which we were successful for 2024. And I'm now pursuing the 2028 AGA, as that's the 200-year anniversary of the Drummond Islanders arriving. I've identified funding sources through grants, etc., to do what the citizens have indicated was important to them, to name a few. As captain of the hunt and as a citizen, I've worked diligently to engage and support community harvesting, supported citizenship fee waivers, harvesting application fees waived. And after 18 months of campaigning, my original motion to have the harvester card extended for 5 years, aligning with citizenship cards, was passed at the annual general meeting in 2023. This reduces administrative costs and workloads, as well as the obvious benefit to our harvesters and our citizens. I've sat on municipal committees that have seen such work as the Sans Souci plaque highlighting or Metis, and First Nations communities like the monument on Point Street and Penetang Machine, as well as the committee of the 400-year Champlain commemoration, seeing the Metis statues on the park in Penetang Machine. I've developed many relationships that have seen success at having day fees waived from 18 provincial parks, boat launch fees waived in Midland from 18 First Nation harvesters residing there. I've organized group events on both islands for many of our committees, such as Women's Circle, Youth Circle, harvesters not living in our region but historically tied to us as well. I am engaged. Ron and I have worked with Georgian Bay Township and others to successfully support and have a Métis Parkette remodeled and named Rendezvous Park in 2023. If you're ever in Honey Harbor, take a drive by, it looks very nice. We did our first pancake breakfast there last year. I was a large part of the successful organizing of the first regional Métis Business Expo in 2023, recognizing, identifying, supporting our Métis businesses, as well as working with our Penetang Machine Museum to start a Drummond Island exhibit. Also, during the period with no office space and at the height of the COVID, we opened our house to be a temporary office, allowing the citizens to be provided with support for COVID, PPE, and food supports in the form of food cards. I've coordinated large food donations from many Métis businesses, supplementing our community food security during a difficult period for all in the region. In short, I have the experience and dedication of our regional needs. I've been there for the citizens and continue to provide my unwavering support. I work hard for the region and the larger Métis community. It has been an honor meeting so many citizens, whether it's for assisting the hundreds of citizenship applications or harvester applications, helping elders, youth, volunteers, local Métis business owners, and anyone else in our community. I've spent countless hours with many at the local, regional, and provincial levels, and look forward to advancing your priorities as the next PCMO regional rep. I have over many years poured my energy into volunteering and receiving such recognitions as a Citizen of the Year by the Métis Nation of Ontario in 2017, and in 2020 I was recognized by the Federal Ministry of Veterans Affairs and received a commendation for volunteer service to our veterans. This election needs everyone to exercise their vote to ensure the candidate you want to represent you for the next 4 years is the right one. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you, Greg, for the speed reading. Great job. Next, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Manta.
Thank you, Miigwech Chair Rollinson, Miigwech Karen, for the wonderful opening prayer and to hold that in our hearts throughout this meeting. Miigwech to the Barrie South Simcoe Métis Council for making this all possible, and a big miigwech to all the candidates, and wishing you all the very best. And my last miigwech is to all of you, our community, for showing such an interest in making these important choices. Wait, there's one more. And miigwech to our veterans, servicewomen, and men who have fought so valiantly so we can have this right to make these choices. Tanashi, bon après-midi, good afternoon. I'm Mark Manta, President-elect of the Moon River Métis Council, so that means I'm also a member of the Regional Council for Region 7. Heritage and ancestry, you know, for a lot of people, it was who am I? Because for some time I didn't really know. My aunties and uncles were, well, we called them mononks and matantes. They never spoke of our roots. And of the 7 generations, we were part of the lost generation. And many of you are still searching and should never be embarrassed for what was taken from us out of fear. This lost generation and cultural genocide was caused by and the use of fear. Some people can't confirm their ancestry because some grandparents are still anxious and fearful to acknowledge their ancestry by applying for citizenship. And some will not approve the release of something as simple as a long-form birth certificate because they're still in their hearts protecting their children. It was in their lifetime that the big scoop happened and residential schools were still prevalent. And my papa got his citizenship later in life, and I followed shortly after. And it's an honor to go back down the path and bring the family heritage back into the light. For me, there were hints and clues along the way. Some interesting joual and métis. That was nothing like the French I learned in school. And a few cousins and an uncle I met only once when I was very young, but I wasn't sure why I had not seen them before, and I was trying to understand the connections. So I think it was my father who began reconnecting and what led him to MNO citizenship. And after I graduated, I began my career up north for some time, but like a modern Métis, I traveled to the modern harvest. So that was where the jobs were. Interestingly, I would end up working for the Hudson's Bay Company in Toronto. And I almost ended up near the Arctic Circle interviewing a few years earlier to manage a Hudson's Bay outpost store in a tiny community where supplies were flown in just a few times a year. I had some land here in Region 7 for years, and even before I bought the land, I probably walked a few thousand kilometers in the forests of Region 7. And I would come up here after years of working in the big city, and I rediscovered those stars. Those were the stars of my childhood with no light pollution. And I knew this was my home, and I would return, and I did. I constructed a small home and made a small footprint to preserve the trees that would keep my home cool in the summers, and I designed and I built a mini home. Why would I want a big house when I have a 5-acre living room? And there was lots of crown land to explore as well. I got some chickens for fresh eggs every day, and my little cast iron wood stove used up maybe a cord and a half of wood while I know my neighbors down the road were burning 15 or 20. I supported my neighbors all the time. I used their local services and their materials, and my home was designed in such a way it could heat itself passively on the coldest winter days. I wanted to have as little impact as possible for every consideration in building my home, and I immersed myself as deep as possible into the Métis way. And what a gift to come home. The rivers, the lakes, the streams, the great granite landscapes and the tall pines, the farmscapes and the wholesome harvests from those local farms. Just to breathe the fresh country air. And you know when you canoe on a perfectly still lake at sunrise, and I remember how I was taught to paddle silently on a mirrored lake. My mind was clear of all the distractions. Now here I am. Today we struggle, and we're all struggling with the high cost of everything: food, education, housing, healthcare, with limited coverage for support and seniors and veterans. And it's our Métis way of life at stake. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, thank you. Up next, we have Jordan Plain.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much to the Barrie Simcoe Métis Council for hosting such an important conversation here today. For those of you who maybe I haven't introduced myself or I haven't had the opportunity to meet, my name is Jordan Plain, and I'm the proud great-great-great-granddaughter of Malgadet Desome of Penetang, and I've been born and raised in Penetang and still have the pleasure of calling it my home today. I also work as a social worker at Waypoint Center for Mental Health, which has really allowed me the opportunity to grow my passion for social justice and mental health collectively. I'm dedicated to Métis rights, wellness, and prosperity, and as the current and only candidate for Region 7 who has had the opportunity to serve a term on PCMNO, I am the outgoing youth representative, which I have been able to achieve a strong result for the Métis citizens I serve, while also honoring our shared Métis values, visions, and voice for the future. I believe I bring a new refreshing perspective to leadership for the new era of Métis that we're headed into, particularly in Region 7. You've probably heard over the past couple of weeks, and you'll hear it today, about the importance of getting us across the finish line regarding the self-government and bill and pushing us towards constitution building. And I want to make one thing abundantly clear, that our people and our community have a long and rich history, and we have always been self-governing Métis people. We are rights-bearing community members under Section 35 and have an inherent constitutional right to self-government. I'm very proud to say that I'm not coming into this conversation at the finish line, that I've actually been involved in the conversation over the past 4 years, where I've sat at the PCMNO on the committee that negotiated the self-government agreement. I also sat in the House of Commons in June 2023 when the bill was introduced, and had the opportunity to testify to the standing committee that was studying it. I represented 5,000 young people in that moment. I share a deep affection that the bill crosses the finish line, and how the bill's actually going to largely impact young people as well as all people. Beyond self-government, I'm committed to being accountable in my leadership, and something that I've really done, I believe, since first being elected in 2016. Leadership to me isn't just about always being liked or being the most popular person in the room. It's really sometimes saying the difficult things that truthfully need to be said. I'm committed to being accountable in every decision that I make, taking my mandate from all of you, from the community and from our community councils, because your voices are key to ensuring the success for all of us. And I want to ensure all citizens here and throughout Region 7 that I'll continue to respect them in a good way and ensure that I always speak the truth and not just have empty promises and say what folks need to hear or want to hear. It is important to remember that we're a big community with a lot of opinions, and I mean a lot, and a lot of different perspectives, and I'm really committed to sitting down and hearing each and every one of those. Being transparent is something, again, you will and you probably have heard from all of us, but I really want to clarify what I mean when I say I'm going to be a transparent counselor. I mean that my work plan that I intend to submit to the PCMNO will be accessible to all leadership in our community and all citizens. More and more I'm hearing from people that they need to be connected, not just on social media. And I'm committed to ensuring that our citizens know when food baskets are, when meeting circles are happening, when community councils are meeting. This will make sure that all Region 7 citizens are actively able to participate in community. I mean, I'm sure you've all gotten several emails from me over the past couple of weeks, and I hope if I'm elected, those will continue. And as we know, citizens are curious what's happening at the PCMNO table. And again, I want to commit to all of you here today and all citizens in Region 7, as has been practiced under my leadership in the MNOYC, is that I will continue to hold meetings, coffee chats, even a game of you here and there, to share what's happening in our community so everyone can stay informed and know what's actually happening. In kind of a summary, I just want to let folks know that new leadership for a new era, it's simple. It means a ground-up approach, listening to our community, and moving forward our collective rights.
And last but not least, we have Jessica Sobey.
Fantastic, thank you. I knew you were going to say that line, eh? Massey, Metis, to everyone who's here today, and a very thank you to Barrie Council for having us, and Margaret and Hank for participating in this debate today. Bonjour, my name is Jessica Sobey, and it is my honor to run for Region 7 Councillor on the Provisional Council of Métis Nation of Ontario. My journey begins in the heart of Penetangmachine as a descendant of Beausoleil-Giroux, Dalleronde, and Lafreniere family lines. I am proud to share my rich culture of Drummond Island descendants of beautiful Georgian Bay and enjoy being deeply immersed in sharing and celebrating our cultural heritage. My term as councillor for Georgian Bay Métis since 2022 has allowed me to connect full-heartedly with our citizens, sharing in our collective stories and aspirations. My dedication to the Métis Nation of Ontario is unwavering, As a candidate, my vision is to advocate passionately for our community's rights and interests, ensuring that our voices are heard and respected. My commitment is to work towards a future where our community thrives, grounded in the values and vision of Métis Nation of Ontario. I bring to the table a history of advocating for policies, programs, and initiatives that benefit our community. From attending AGAs and AGMs to engaging in community council meetings, my focus is on fostering relationships, participating in public and community events, and ensuring our financial stability. My approach is holistic, balancing fiscal responsibility with our collective goals of harmony and progress. As a prospective PCMNO member, I am dedicated to transparent governance, strategic financial planning, and nurturing the community's trust. My aim is to build and maintain meaningful relationships, encourage active participation in our governance, and promote open dialogue and collaboration. In every decision I bring with respect to our traditions and understanding of our current needs and a vision for our future. My goal is to identify and support opportunities for leadership, help our citizens access M&O programs and services, and ensure our culture and rights are at the forefront of our collective efforts. To summarize, my candidacy for Region 7 Councillor is driven by a commitment to our community's growth, our unity and prosperity. With a belief in our collective strength and dedication to a path towards self-governance, I stand ready to champion change and shape tomorrow for Region 7. Vote Jessica Sobe. Together, let's forge a vibrant future for our community.
Thank you, Jessica. Now, for the last game, it'll be the letter L for, I think it was the wrong night, sorry. So anyway, each of the candidates were sent 5 questions to the council. So we're going to go through those, and this time we're going to go into reverse order from the candidates who started. We'll start at the bottom and work up this time. So the first question. What are you going to do to ensure that you are regularly informed of our constituency and community needs and direction, and what process will you use to ensure your priorities are aligned with your community? So I will start with Mr. Ron Lepage.
As Vice Chair, my constituency consists of all Métis citizens, their families, and beyond, which might also at times include various stakeholders. I would establish mechanisms to regularly communicate with everyone by attending and participating in the routinely scheduled M&O town hall meetings, attending the community assemblies or annual general meetings whenever feasible and possible, and attending local events to best understand community dynamics and build relationships. Through transparent and open dialogue, I could likely engage the full range of individuals and communities within our Métis Nation, including those who have traditionally been marginalized, such as our Métis women, youth, Two-Spirit LGBTQ+ communities, and people with disabilities. I would foster transparency by sharing information about the activities, decisions, and processes of the PCMNO. I believe that I can make a tangible difference in citizens' lives by actively involving them in a wholesome, two-way, transparent dialogue. Citizen engagement is essential for effective representation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next up, Sharon Cadoc.
Thank you so much. So as Vice Chair, we actually sit on a provincial level. So we do actually have mechanisms in place that we make sure that all communication goes out to our citizens. For instance, the regional councillors are really important, and we always have, after a meeting, we do a summary, and we make sure that it's given out to actually regional councillors and your presidents, and it's available for everybody to see. We actually make sure that we have our town halls, and those are, I love the town halls with our citizens because we get to hear exactly what's going on, and we have questions that are amazing. And when the part of this question that says to ensure my priorities are aligned with my community, well, that's why I'm running as vice chair is because it's the love of the people. You know, I've been here since when it wasn't even, there was no money available. But the one thing I have to say, we're not doing an excellent job in communicating because there's still pockets of our citizens that don't get the communication, that don't get that information, and we got to figure out how we get there. Even we have our community councils and we have our advisory committees. For some reason, it's, we're not getting to all them, so. Oh, and the one thing, I just want to make a correction on the previous speaker, that Helen Bradley in 2002 was a Peace and Minot regional councillor, and she served in that capacity.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. So in staying with reverse order, I will ask Jessica.
I will implement a multifaceted approach that includes regular town hall meetings, surveys, and the establishment of community advisory board. This board will represent a diverse cross-section of our community, including youth, elders, business owners, and citizens. The insights gathered from these engagements would be analyzed and used to inform strategic priorities to ensure alignment with our community needs. I would employ feedback loops, sharing how input has been integrated into policy and decision-making processes, thereby fostering transparency and accountability.
Next, Jordan.
Jordan. Jordy or Jordan, but on the vote, it's Jordan. So new leadership really, I think, does come down to it means every single citizen has a voice and it's valued and it's important. One of the things throughout this campaign I think I've been really adamant about is ensuring that our community is regularly informed about everything. I just spent about almost 2 hours up in the Moon River area up in Foley this morning, just sitting and having coffee with community and listening and taking guidance, and they gave me a tall order to bring back to some folks, but that is what I intend to do. It's not something that will start when I get elected. It's something that I'm already doing and have done for the past 8 years. So that is something, should I be elected into Region 7, is that I will continue to always have transparent dialogue with community in whatever way it means, whether it's Facebook, phone calls, emails, texting. I'm readily available. You all in this room got a mail out from me, and so you all have my number. And so after election, it doesn't change. I'm here, and that's what I intend to do, and that's how I hope to continue to foster communication and connecting with community.
It's community that directs us. It's constant contact, engagement, and listening to citizens. That's what directs us. Anything leadership proposes is a result of mirroring what is expressed by the voice of the community. Leadership is listening. The citizen's voice that will be key in building our historic constitution. Councils are the connection to the grassroots, with gatherings, rendezvous, and engaging citizens at their AGMs to vote on key issues and bring forth their own motions. Our last AGM for Moon River, our citizens' voices were being heard again. Motions they voted for, amended, and created. We are at new beginnings by going outside the council table to the citizens. It's the citizens' council. I do not make priorities. The community has priorities, and that's the voice I share. This is how one aligns with the community, and a regional councillor collaborates with councils who know the heartbeat of the community. A regional councillor reaches out and acknowledges all invitations to community council meetings, gatherings, rendezvous, and my regional council door is always open to all citizens, and I will have regular traveling open door meetings to all parts of the region with councils and for citizens, so we can talk and you can tell us what matters. There's still a challenge. About 20% of our citizens are disconnected, and we need to find solutions. One citizen at a time, we will get them there. Miigwech.
Thank you. I will not assume my priorities align with the communities. I will encourage and support community engagement as I always have and make myself available as I always have in the past. Self-government has regional work plans in place, and I have with the other presidents in the region fed into what we have heard citizens want for engagement, from community gatherings, engagement sessions, mail-outs, emails, surveys, etc. When we get to Constitution building, I anticipate advocating and fully supporting complete engagement. We want to hear from 100% of our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now for question 2, we'll go back to alphabetical order. So question 2, are you prepared to vote yes for the Women's Council and the Two-Spirit Council to have a seat at the PCMNO? If no, why not? So first up would be Ms. Sharon Cadeau.
Thank you so much. I guess my direction falls from the citizens, and the very first resolution that was at the AGA spoke about our next 4 years. So it said that we're not going to be changing anything, but we're working on a constitution. So those are the things that we need to make sure moving forward is the women, the Two-Spirit Working Group, everybody is engaged, because the PCMNO, have you see it, is gone. So you have to look at that the next 4 years. In 4 years from now, it's a whole different ballgame. Nothing will be the same. So you have to think outside that box. Tony Belcourt always said, about self-government, and I was always trying to think about what does he mean by that, and it just hit me. It hit me like, so we get money right now from the government, and they tell us what we need to spend it on. When we become our own government, we tell them, we're gonna decide, the community is gonna decide what is good. And this community could be different from Georgian Bay, could be different from a community down south, and that's okay, because that's a priorities here. So we need everybody involved when we move into Constitution. So I have to say, no, I can't do it. It's up to the people.
Thank you, Sharon. I feel sorry for Deb there.
She's like, no, there's 5 pounds. I need to do that.
Next up is Mr. Ron Lepage.
So I believe all marginalized groups need to be represented and heard. I would support the Women's Council and the Two-Spirit LGBTQ+ Council to sit on whatever the table will be in 4 years, whether it's called the PCMNO or whatever the new governance structure will be. Those voices need to be heard. I would go one further and support that the MNO should also have a Disability Rights Council, and that council, along with the Veterans Council, should also have a seat at whatever that governance table will be in 4 years. However, it must be recognized that the PCMNO does not have the authority to change the structure and number of seats at their table. A resolution for any additional seats to the PCMNO table would have to be passed at an AGA. Not only would I support a resolution for those seats, but I would also get up to a mic and speak in favor of whatever of the resolution for whatever structure the new government will take. I have first-hand experience with this very process. I sat for a few years on a couple of the OPSEU-CEFCO provincial equity committees, the Indigenous Circle and the Rainbow Alliance. There are 7 provincial equity committees within OPSEU, and each year we would fight to have at least one seat on the board of directors, the OPSEU board of directors. And every year the delegate members at the annual general meeting would turn down that motion. After many years of struggling, debating, disappointments, and tears, I was pleased to witness last year at the OPSEU-CEFCO convention the rallying behind the equity committees, and to watch the delegates support not just one equity seat, but rather 7 equity seats at the board of directors. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. You could have just gave it to Greg, so I don't gotta walk all the way.
I really didn't think he needed to, because him and I are on the same page with this. So the way the question is worded, I don't support it the way the question is worded. I fully do support the inclusion, but we cannot continue to piecemeal changes. And we need to look at these scenarios holistically and with inclusivity. There are other councils like the Veterans and others, future possible disabilities councils, that need a voice and a seat as well. We must include existing and future councils, and that is a process I would 100% support and plan to advocate for. We supported our council, a quadriplegic. He's been, as a youth, he was a quadriplegic at about the age of 12 or 14, I believe. He's now 35. He underwent an experimental electrotherapy in Toronto. OHIP paid for the experimental treatment, but not the cost. So the council supported with funds that we had to get him down there and get his 6 to 8 weeks of treatment to see how this worked. He's actually gained some mobility in one of his fingers, or 2 of his fingers on the one hand. He's strengthened his core muscles. He can almost sit up now. He's not leaning all the time. But when his mother brought him to the council to thank us for the support, his opening comment was, "My name is Jacob, and I'm the next president of the Georgian Bay Métis Council." We need to support our disabled citizens like that, and we don't currently do enough, in my opinion, and I'll be advocating strongly for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. You could have kept the mic there, Mark.
Oh.
I did my job.
You know what, Greg? Absolutely expanding that perspective. Excellent. I really appreciate hearing that. The M&O Women's Council and Two-Spirit Council know my answer. After last Monday's meeting with the M&O Women's Council, I put together an audio presentation to share relatable perspectives and express my support more fully. We need to take a good look at the backbone of our communities and together make some decisions that will work within our fiscal accountabilities. My role is not to talk about my point of view, active listening, to be your PCM&O voice. That's my role. Together, we'll formulate that support that'll strengthen fulfilling the M&O Women's Council's vital role to our nation and to support their statements of mission and vision. Miigwech, I want to let them know that I'm ready to help.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Up next, we have Jordan Plain.
Thank you. It's a really good question. It's actually a question that, if anyone's been in an annual General Assembly, you've probably seen me at a microphone having an opinion based on dialogue with young people. I didn't go to those microphones and give you my opinion. I gave the opinion of a lot of young people. But I also want to remind people it isn't actually the role of the regional councillor to vote yes. It is the role of a regional councillor to take direction from the assembly and to take direction from our community. And so that's where that comes from. It's not on me to vote yes for this. It's actually on all of you here today to vote yes. So in August, I hope to see you all at our annual General Assembly, again exercising your right to vote, because we know this is coming back to the floor. And so if it is the will of the people, of all of you, and if it is the will of the Assembly, then it has my support. Because as I said, I take my guidance from all of you here today.
Woo! Thank you, Jordan. And up next, we have Jessica Sauvé.
Okay, well, I think it's been made pretty clear that it's not my role to put my opinion forward on that. It is the citizens who will vote on whether the women in 2S have a seat. But yes, I am prepared to support a vote in favor of Women's Council and 2S Council having a seat at the Provisional Council of Métis Nation of Ontario. Representation matters, and it is vital that all voices in our community are heard and have an opportunity to influence decisions. Ensuring that these councils have a seat at the table aligns with our values of inclusivity and diversity, reinforcing our commitment to equity within our governance structures.
Thank you, Jessica. So we're on to question number 3, and we will go back to reverse order. So question number 3, are you prepared to support a vote at the PCM&O that harvesting cards have mobility? Sharon?
Reverse.
Oh, reverse. Ron?
Regardless of the harvester's ancestral traditional territory, the mobility or porting of harvesting rights throughout the province is not within the authority of the PCMNO. The harvesting rights are clearly spelled out in the negotiated harvesting agreement between the province of Ontario and the Métis Nation of Ontario. A change to the agreement to allow for the mobility of harvesting rights would have to open the current agreement to negotiation with the provincial government in power at the time, and it can be a risky venture. However, after conversing with our harvesters and our potential future harvester citizens, if it is their desire to negotiate change to the existing harvesting agreement or to negotiate a new harvesting agreement, then I would support the will of the citizens and support the resolution of the AGA.
Thank you, Ron. Now, Sharon.
Thank you so much. There was a court case out in Alberta that we were watching, and it was regarding mobility issues, and we were hoping that Jason would win, but unfortunately, don't tell him I told you, but he lost. So that court case is now out the window, and we thought, instead of us doing an Alcali that cost us money, we thought we could just ride on the coattails of Alberta's court case. But, so in saying that, I have to say, we need to take a look, and it would be up to our harvesters and our captains of the hunt. You know, that needs to come up through the ranks. That's why we have captains of the hunt, because they're a community council or advisory committee, and they would let us know that this is what is needed, and then we would do whatever we needed to do to get that at the table. But right now, our relationship with the government of Ontario is probably not so good, so wouldn't be a good time maybe to bring it up, maybe a little bit after this bill C-53 passes, and then we can go forward with that, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Jessica Sauvé.
So this question comes with, obviously, citizens have been inquiring for mobility already, otherwise we wouldn't be discussing the matter. You know, I'm prepared to support our citizens. However, with the Supreme Court and the Palaway case, it did set a precedence in which we are restricted to our regions currently right now for harvesting. And it would bring up definite issues as we move forward with governance if we're constantly in the court system fighting over where our harvesting rights are, fighting with our First Nations over our territories. So that's my.
Thank you, Jessica. Jordan.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll try to keep it short and sweet because I think we all tend to have a very similar answer. And from my understanding, the law actually currently doesn't allow us to have mobility rights. And so that wouldn't actually be a vote that would be coming to the PCMNO table. It would actually be more so pushing us to push the province to come back to the table. Because it's not for a lack of us not trying and not for a lack of us not wanting to have that conversation. It is our government, our provincial government. It is not our own Métis government. So I'm hearing that from a lot of community members, and it most certainly will be something that continues to be talked about. But I just want to reassure everyone, it is the provincial government not coming to the table, not us.
Currently, harvesting is tied to your historical community, but as you move, you have to join the colonial limitations that do not fully support your culture and your needs. Regarding historical communities, there were a number of times in our history when we had forced migrations, and today we have modern forced migrations in some ways. And if you had to leave your region for another region to get a good job or to support your family, that's similar in some ways to historic migrations. All Métis should be free to harvest where they live, to harvest what they need to live, to feed themselves, and to encourage more community and inter-community harvest banks to feed our regions. And you can also ask President Garrett about bartering as well. There are some possibilities there too as well, and I'm sure those conversations will come up. And no Métis should be stifled from filling their freezer to provide for the winter for their families. Some years ago, the anglers and hunters were against any expansion of our harvesting, and the actual percentage of Métis harvesters compared to colonial hunters was so small, it was insignificant, yet the anglers and hunters were opposed without any rationale. And the voice of our citizen harvesters is, I want to hunt where I live. Miigwech, merci.
Ditto to everything. As captain of the hunt, I've always advocated for this and other harvesting changes. I would support any PCMNO initiatives on this, but to be clear, harvesting issues are not resolved at the PCMNO table, but by a bipartite process at the policy dialogue table with the province, to which my knowledge has largely ignored our request to turn out for that. And I have and will continue to ask to be a part of that table as your regional rep and captain of the hunt. But there are other factors in here too. The original harvesting agreement, the maps, were done with the best historical knowledge we've had at the time. Lawyers like Jason Madden, research like No History, the M&O's registry, the great works that they've done have shown us that there are families like the Labatt lines that connect from Sault Ste. Marie to here. And that historical context of what makes a region needs to be reevaluated. I don't believe that there's a money value in taking it to court. We are better off negotiating. We just need to find the leverage to get the province to the negotiating table. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, great. I do want to reiterate the fact that mobility has been an issue for a long, long time. It's not like your leadership is not trying. We're trying our damnedest to get the government to the table to talk about mobility. So I'm glad that every candidate feels the same way that the current PCMNO and our president does right now. So I just had to put that in there in case she gave me shit later. Okay, we are in question number 4. And we'll go back to alphabetical order. So question number 4, if more funding from the federal and provincial government is available to the M&O, how would you distribute it between the regions? Sharon?
Thank you so much. It wouldn't be up to me, it would be up to the funding agreement that we signed for. So unfortunately, that we can't change now. So in 4 years from now, when we talk self-government, that's a totally different story. Then we can look at how are we going to distribute it? Is it representation by population or because it's not equitable for each community to get the same amount of money if you think about it. It's like, it's not fair to, if you have, this is the largest community, Region 7. And when you think that they get the same, each council right now, they get the same as, at the end of the year, when we have extra money, we always divide it out, and everybody gets the same amount of funding. And when we think, what could this council do with that same amount of funding when up north there's a council that has half the people? Well, aren't they better off? So we gotta look at that. But right now, I have to say, I couldn't make any changes because right now, if we got the money, it would be up to what the funding agreement said. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Ron?
So I'm chair of the Georgian Bay Métis Council. We serve the largest population of Métis citizens of any council within the Métis Nation of Ontario. Our citizen numbers are around the 4,000 mark. With the current established funding distribution structured by the M&O, our council will receive the same amount of funding as any other council. One council, I'm told, has fewer than 100 citizens, while others within Region 7 serve less than 1,000 citizens. Yet, when there is money to be divided amongst the councils, all councils, to my understanding, receive the same number of dollars. Consequently, a council with 400 citizens can more effectively serve their citizens with the money they receive than the Georgian Bay Métis Council receiving the same amount of dollars, which cannot offer the same level of service to 4,000 citizens. I would advocate for a fair distribution of the funds divested to the councils to serve all M&O citizens more equitably.
So to put some math on the table, 9 regions means each region gets 11% of a pot, but our region represents 25 to 27%. So when you start divvying up $9 million by 9 regions, that's $1 million each at 11%. Think what that difference would make if it was a representation by our population density. It's not a simple matter of per capita funding though. Baselines need to be established, cost factored. Much like hospital funding is distributed by assessing multiple parameters such as base cost for infrastructure, geography, how far your citizens live apart, and cost per program delivery. This process, if undergone, will ensure all regions are funded by identified needs as well. And that's what I would support. Thank you.
Okay, we're in alphabetical order again, right? Okay. So up next is Mark. Well, you passed it back to me and I screwed you up.
Yes, we need to establish a baseline to ensure smaller community regions can still function and survive, while understanding ensuring the larger regions can better support their citizens. We'll need to get together to collaborate on what, I don't know, it might be a gradual transition to a better per capita funding, if it's not the case already. And this also gives the most affected regions more time and opportunity to find other sources of funding and grants that might fill the gaps of any transitions or changes, and again, whatever that looks like, as we consider the realities of appropriate per capita funding. I want to mention another dynamic outside of government funding, and that some regions do benefit from industry-funded agreements that give them a hand up over other regions. And I'm always open to assisting other regions to explore industries in their own region that impact them to build relationships and birth their own funding agreements. And it's not just funding. There's a higher purpose. For us to be the gatekeepers in their accountability to the lands, resources, and waters and our harvesting of which.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my opening comments, is that I really do believe I have a track record of taking notes from community and really putting, for lack of better terms, my money where my mouth is. And what I'm hearing from folks is the need to reevaluate our funding formula. I actually think I have a different opinion than maybe some folks up here, is that as regional councillor, you get one vote at the table. There's a lot of other voices at the table, and that's where it's really important to have good, strong working relationships with other regional councillors, so that when things come to the table that may include distributing funds in rights-bearing or non-rights-bearing communities, that you have those types of relationships where you can have transparent dialogue instead of just kind of being pushed out of them, which we know sometimes happens. But I think at the end of the day, I really would support an equitable per funding capita and looking at a base amount per person and divvying it up from there. So an example could, I hate to put dollar signs on folks, but mathematically, like an example is if every citizen has $30, then we would give Barrie whatever you need for $30 per person, which would look different, obviously, in the Georgian Bay Métis Council, they have more people, but they would still get the same amount of money per person, so that it's not an unequitable portion being given to different community councils.
Thank you, Jordy. And Jessica.
If additional funding becomes available from federal and provincial sources, I would advocate for distributing strategy that is both equitable and strategic, focusing on regional needs assessments to ensure that resources are allocated where they are most needed. This would involve a transparent consultation process with regional leaders to identify priorities, such as healthcare, education, infrastructure, and economic development. Additionally, setting aside a portion of the funds for emergency needs and future projects would ensure that we are not just reaching the current situations, but we are also planning for the community's future.
Thank you, Jessica. So the last question that the council has provided to the candidates is, and we're going to go in reverse order, what are your plans to promote funding directly to council for council use and be specific? So reverse, I'm going back to you, Jessica. No, so.
This isn't very easy, but it needs to be addressed. Councils need a basic influx of money to serve their citizens with just the basics. The councils are elected, but are not paid positions. Therefore, most of these officials are working full-time. What they can assist with is limited due to their availability. So council compensation could be funded, but some council members work more than others. Similar to the answer to question number 4, we should advocate for a fairer distribution of funds for the programs and services delivered by each individual council and each individual council member. If the council doesn't have the proper tools in their toolbox, how can they assist the citizens they serve?
Thank you, Ron. Sharon?
Thank you. So I have to go back to self-government. So one of my plans to promote funding directly to councils, well, it's self-government because the money is going locally and regionally. So we need to get to that self-government, we need to have constitution talks, so we need all of you to be there because it's so important. Everybody needs to be engaged, you know, in these talks. So right now, I have to say, there's right now, at the end of the year, when we're told, we're talking with around our table, and Joanne Young tells us the amount of money, and we have this much that we have extra. We decide what we want to spend that on, and it always is back to the community. Always, if we have extra money, we find it goes to the community, and that's what we do. You know, so if we're really good at tightening our belts, then, you know, we need to think of it that way, you know, then we can send more money back. But it's down the road, this will make a difference. There might be big changes for the community councils and locally and regionally.
Thank you, Sharon. Now we have Jessica.
Thank you. To promote direct funding to our council for its use, I would work on establishing clear and accountable and transparent mechanisms for final allocation. This would involve developing specific grant programs tailored to the needs of our councils, with well-defined criteria and outcomes. Advocating for direct funding requires demonstrating the council's ability to manage the funds effectively and to deliver on projects that have a tangible impact on our community. Requiring detailed proposals backed by community input and strategic planning would be essential in this advocacy, ensuring that funds are used efficiently and align with both local and broader community objectives. These responses aim to highlight the importance of community engagement, representation, equitable resource distribution, and strategic planning and governance.
Yeah, I think some of my plan is actually already things that I do at the PCMNO level. The youth don't get money from the MNO up until recently. With that caveat, and I've always advocated that that some of the money doesn't just go to the young people, that it goes to our advisory councils, and I've been really proud to have been that voice to ensure that our advisory councils get money, such as our women, our 2S, our vets as well, that some of the money flows there. But regionally speaking, I think there's a huge lack of, we haven't tapped into some of the private and public funders. So I'm thinking like banks, they have a huge pot of money that sits there for reconciliation. The same with churches, they have mandates around reconciliation. I sat in that audience when I watched the Pope give his apology, and we need to come pony up. Let's bring some money back into this community, and I believe that's where we can bring some of that money right back into the community councils. And then again, through grants, right? There is hundreds of thousands of dollars available just sitting there for grants, and we need people who are able to articulate themselves through grant writing to secure that fund. And I'm pleased to say that I was part of securing over $150,000 for the youth council over about 3 years for us to reinvest money into community, and that's what I fully intend to do if elected in this community, is seek out grants and reinvest that money right back into our community council so you can do what you know what's best.
Next we have Mark Menta.
The regional councillor functions as a chair, so it's not my plan. It's the regional council's plan. That comes from their community councils. That comes from what they understand from their citizens. So just take that and turn it upside down, and it's the citizens' plan, right at the top. That said, for guidance to the region, I would suggest having silos, or call them categories, that could be adjusted according to what the community council's needs are. And categories can be added as needed, redistributed amongst those categories as needed, so there's flexibility for each council to customize. A council might start with categories like healthcare, student bursaries, food security, housing, etc. And some fundings are very specific, with memorandums of understanding that are derived from the colonial government that outline the parameters of how and on what the funds can be used for, and sometimes they have deadlines too. It was such a challenge with the M&O systems for everybody. With new upgrades completed, the treasurer can now understand better what the funds are and the memorandums of understanding or the funding agreements that go with them. The Moon River Métis Council was one of the first in the region to jump on the M&O financial tracking services, uploading everything to secured servers and work with the M&O financial liaison support, and thank goodness the M&O had staff to support us as a newly elected council. We recently ran a report to audit any unidentified dollars spent. This term of elected council has 0 unidentified funds, so every dollar is confirmed accounted for. We have also requested to the M&O a financial review to be the first on the list, and would like that to be shared with all citizens. This is a new era of leadership, for open and transparent communications.
Thank you. Jordy wasn't hitting them on purpose, it just, I know I had 30 seconds left. Greg?
Thank you again, Nate. Council needs M&O funding to ensure the cost of such things as community assemblies, mail-outs, indeed all communications, as one-size-fits-all does not work for all regions and all councils. Youth have many tech platforms and they use them very well for communication purposes. MailChimp is a per email subscription service. Simply that means that if you have 500 citizens, it might cost you 10 cents a citizen to do an email. But when you have 5,000, your cost is proportional. It's 10 times the amount. That often, without funding or with everybody getting the same funding, is problematic. Elders are not all at the same comfort level in tech and prefer direct communication. Robocall accessible to regions and councils is another tool, as well as some level of council compensation. We're burning out councillors throughout the province. They need support to cover off tools they give freely of their own that we take for granted. Their vehicles for transporting elders to hospitals and appointments. Their phones and internet for staying in touch with the community and much more. As well, there should be a look at funding dollars where more than just a handful from community councils get to go to an AGA. I know that's a much bigger beast to wrestle with, but that somehow needs to be looked after, even if there's a per individual compensation amount if you attend on your own. I know the M&O can't put hotels up, rooms up for 30,000 citizens, but we have to look at getting those councillors, all the councils out, so the communication is broader and more effective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. So that ends the questions that were submitted to the candidates. I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute break for a health break. There's some food and water over here, okay? And I just want to talk about a little bit about what we were talking about here, about plans for promoting and helping community councils. It's always been our goal at the CCMNO to negotiate compensation for our community councils. For the last 30 years, you guys have been doing this for as volunteers. So when we start talking self-government and we're in front of the government with regards to negotiating a fiscal finance agreement, it will be to include compensation for our community councils. Right now, like I said, our hands are tied because most of the funding, 99% of our funding is from government programs and the deliverables. So we can't just take money and say, okay, we're going to put it over here. So hopefully, when we get to self-government, we'll be able to allocate funding where it's needed. So, you know, I think everybody here answered the question perfectly with regards to how we're going to help and support our community councils. But just so you know, it's nothing new. Your leadership at the provincial level, at the regional level, has been advocating for trying to get more funding to our community councils. And I think in the last 2 years, in the history of the M&O, we've been able to provide more funding to our community councils to help them. So
this is for everybody on the council. Have you, at any time, ever been removed from council under section 27 or any other section of the M&O Community Code. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll start off with Sharon.
Thank you so much. I'm from Great Lakes too.
Yes, I
So I actually was the founding president of the Credit River Métis Council, and no, that never happened. I resigned because I was elected as regional councillor.
I've been on the Metis Council now for 6 years. I've served previously at other terms as a councillor and as president, and I've never been removed. Thank you.
Right.
Very short answer is no, I've never been article or section 27.
Mark?
Yeah, Hank will have a note shortly, but I will answer the question. Yes, about 5 years ago, I was removed with an Article 27. At the time, I didn't understand what my rights were, and my rights at the time were violated. And I asked repeatedly for governance training, and I was denied. And I understand that governance training was my right, and my right was denied. So, under the circumstances, I was not an elected member of council, so I decided I was going to take a journey. And that journey was to go to the people. And I went to the people, and the people chose me as the president of this council. At the time, it was a council member who was able to remove a president, and I don't think that that is appropriate for one council member or a small group of a council member or even a consensus. I have sought legal guidance from a Métis legal and from a colonial legal, and both of them agree that Article 27 needs to be abolished. It's not the kind of process that works in a council. And it's also supposed to be a matter of confidence. And I'm surprised that it's come out here, and I don't think that's fair. Sorry, Hank, I'll do that.
Okay.
I do apologize. My mother was recently released from hospital, and it's her 88th birthday today. And I'm going to go be there for my mamanta. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. You can ask me anything. Forgo the gossip and call me or contact me. I'll tell you the truth. Thank you.
Jordy?
Nope, never been removed.
Jessica? Okay, sir. State who you are and your question.
I'm Rob Baskey. I'm from the Moon River Métis area, and my question is, if you're elected to your respective position, either regional councillor or vice chair, in the first 30 days, what are your priorities to accomplish?
Okay. We're going to go in reverse order. So Ron?
I guess the best response to that is, I'm not there to serve myself and my priorities, I'm there for the citizens. So in the first 30 days, I'm going to be engaging with the citizens to find out what they see is the best avenue for me as vice chair, and what they want me to do for them at the table.
Thank you, Ron. Sharon?
Thank you so much. The first 30 days, well, I'll be busy with the AGA. That's what usually we do. We spend like every week, we have our meetings and stuff like that. But I have to say, I have to get caught up with what's happening, PCMNO meetings, changing of everyone has computers, so getting people trained, upgraded. It's a big thing that will be happening over the first 30 days. And then hopefully we have a PCMNO meeting in person. Right, Chair?
Okay, thank you, so reverse order, right, so.
Thank you. Well, in my first 30 days, I plan on being really busy. I would like to be at all our council's meetings, being informed and connecting with all of the council members to hear what their citizens' needs are immediately. They've been on the councils for a while now, so it's time to address the citizens' needs that are not being met, as well as attending all our PCMNO and ensuring that all the information coming from PCMNO is being provided to our community council so our citizens can be informed.
Thank you, Jessica. Jordan?
Perfect. So I've actually already preemptively been doing this through dialogue with all of you and in multiple different capacities. And within the first 30 days, I want to commit 2 things to all of you. Bringing the Moon River Charter conversation back to the PCMNO. And I hope President Fro can hear this. It's coming back to the table at the first PCMNO meeting. Come hell or high water. Because citizens are quite literally losing out on valuable resources in the community. Second, the Barrie boundary issue. I've heard it loud and clear from citizens in emails, in text messages, and phone calls. They want that conversation back at the table, and I promise you that conversation, if I'm elected, will be coming back to the table immediately.
Thanks, Jordan. Greg?
So one of the first orders is always about communication, so I would be bringing to the table the suggestion that on top of just the presidents or councils getting motion logs from PCMNO minutes, that comms be directed to do executive summaries of those PCMNO minutes and comms distribute them to all the citizens instead of making it a regional burden. That process will take some time to iron out. Emails bounce back, it's going to take some time to fix people that have moved, things like that. But also to jump on what Jordy said about the boundaries, our councils, Barrie and Midlands, did have these discussions, and it was bounced back for several reasons. And one of the reasons that I advocate for and stand behind is that we cannot make these changes one at a time. Every one of our councils has outages. There are people in Brit have no council at all, even when theirs was not suspended, that they could go to. And that's true in the 4 corners of our regions. We have council overlaps. If we're going to bring that to the table, then we need to be holistic on it and do it all at once. The process involves councils agreeing to it, passing a motion, bringing that motion to their AGMs, and then having it approved at PCMNO. Not an easy task, not something worth doing one at a time. It needs to be done regionally and completely. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeanette. I am formerly of the Barrie Metis Council. I was actually elected, but I am in that boundary that you talk about. I live in Barrie. I lived in Barrie when I was first elected at the exact same time. Yet I am no longer part of Barrie Council. I am now part of Georgian Bay. I came to this meeting because I live in Barrie and it was closer to me. You mentioned in your first 30 days, sorry, I'm directing this question to candidate Blaine. You mentioned in your first 30 days that's something you're going to bring forward. Can you tell me how you're going to bring that forward?
Absolutely. I've actually had a lot of citizens in your exact same position reach out and ask me exactly what I intend to do. I intend to have a conversation with you because I can't make an informed decision and bring those conversations back without seeing and talking to the people it actually affects. You can't make those decisions without hearing where you want to go. I understand you vote in provincially and federally in Barrie. If you want to be in Barrie, why wouldn't you be? I see no reason. And so I want to hear from you so that I can then have those conversations and facilitate that to happen. So I'll be seeing you May 7th.
Hi, I'm Zach Tifo. I was born and raised around Georgian Bay. Live in Elmville right now, actually have my whole life. So I'm going to try and keep this short, and Hank's staring at me to not go on a long story. But a lot of things have been talked about today about self-government, about our constitution, but also our rights. All of that is rooted in our community and our community story. Sharon referenced that the Georgian Bay community, the historic community, is the largest community, and also this is one of the largest regions in the MNO. with everything that's going on out in the public, we've seen it online, that's been referenced earlier, the Chiefs of Ontario, the Manitoba Métis Federation. What's important is being able to situate yourself in that story. And as the regional rep for the largest historic community being housed in your contemporary region, how do you place yourself in that story? And how do you tell our community's story in a way that you can combat that? Because you're going to become a spokesperson in a very, very important time when you're going to be needing to speak on those issues. So my question, quite broad, is how do you place yourself in that historic community? Because I realize everybody here is from Georgian Bay. So half of you are just home, so we're all cousins.
Okay, thank you. Sharon?
Thank you. So I guess if we've been to the Sault Ste. Marie, we had a self-government meeting, and you have to look at what they did out there. So, and it's always, we all go to one person all the time, it's Mitch. Mitch Case. He's the one that can talk about and knows the history of his area. And I'm thinking, we all need to be that way. When you're electing somebody, you gotta think, are they gonna be that next person that can stand up somewhere and talk about the story without having a book that knows it, off the top of their head. We all come from, well, not all of us maybe in this room, but from the Drummond Islanders, and two of my family members, my ancestors, signed the petitions. Like, let's talk about that. But we need to let people know. And a lot of people don't have no idea. So your regional councillor that you're gonna be electing right now, you gotta think, you want them to be able to stand up and to tell your story without, at a moment's notice. That's what you want.
Thank you, Sharon. Ron?
Thank you, Hank. So there are many stories out there tied to the Georgian Bay Métis area. Georgian Bay Métis Council, and Greg will probably speak to this as well, has received funding from Canada Heritage Grant, I believe it was, to do just that, to tell the Georgian Bay Métis Council story, and we started doing that already. So there's been a number of interviews, some data that's been collected. My uncle Isidore was one that was interviewed as well. And we have received a number of documents that we're going to be working, our council will be working with the MNO with, no history to, and I should say the documents are from somebody who's passed away, their family has donated it to our council. And there's files, there's a number of filing cabinets, how many filing cabinets? 30 filing cabinets of Métis history there to be photocopied and documented. And our council will be working with No History and the MNO to do just that, to document the Georgian Bay Métis history.
Right.
The youth are very lucky. The MNO is 30 years old. To be youth, you have to be under the age of 30. Our youth have been born into our culture. They understand it from birth, they're exposed to it at birth, they're raised with it, and they get to learn everything. A lot of us elders in the room found out about it 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago. We weren't born into it. We're still scrambling to learn all of that. What needs to happen is those stories need to be told, they need to be recorded, and they need to be disseminated. It's not enough that we record our stories. We can't hoard them. We've got to get them out. We've got to be able to do that to our citizens. And to the files that Ron was talking about, there are about 30 filing cabinets of files that have been researched over 30 years. Relationships are key to this. Having had a relationship with these people, when the mother passed away 2 years ago, they kept the documents and are not sure what to do with them. They've reached out to me and asked if the council can do them. So I've reached out to No History, and collaboratively we're going to try and get them so that they are all digitally scanned and accessible to all citizens.
Fantastic.
And in that way, we should be able to have our own citizens, no matter what age or needs, whatever, be able to tell their stories by what they see in the research. Thank you.
Gordon?
Perfect.
You don't look like
You don't look like her. Sorry. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Marguerite Desson. I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Philippe Marchand, and I'm the granddaughter of Alva Nee Marchand Plain, and the daughter of Al Plain. I know my family's line. I know my family stories. My ancestor was born in Penetangwisheen. Just a couple of I think it was a month ago, I had the opportunity to share our community stories to the expert panel currently studying the Upper Great Lakes, where I know our stories, I learned more of our stories to be able to share that we are part of the Métis Nation, that we fit into the homeland. And so it's important that we have young people who know our stories advocating for us. I'm not afraid to go to a microphone and share those, but it's not my job. It is the job of me to find out those stories and elevate all of your voices, because I'm only a Dessone, but I know we have a lot of other folks. We got some Labatts in the back, so it's my job to facilitate those conversations so that that information is everlasting.
I apologize, I got
Jessica?
Okay, so it helps being on a journey in which that you want to learn and find out your history, find out your community, being a part of it and doing that genealogy for myself and my family. For the last several years, I've learned a lot about our community, a lot about different lines, and I've helped connect a lot of people with getting their citizenship. I think it's really important to ensure that we're advocating for our community. We are historic, and it's about telling all of our elder stories before they're gone. You know, I come from a time where you spoke about lost generations earlier. You know, my mother was the lost generation. It took me learning a lot about our community, a lot about our family lines, and teaching my mother what was lost, and now teaching and passing it on to my children. And ensuring that we're building those relationships with, you know, our municipalities, with our province, with our federal government, and growing that, not being scared to stand up and have that voice and opinion for all our citizens.
Thank you, Jessica. With everybody's indulgence, I'm going to ask the candidates, we do have 3 more questions I would like to get to. Is everybody okay with that?
Talking about how community members are what guides you. I currently have not received any communication from most of the people who are here. I don't have any strategic plans or goals or actions or any information on most of the people who are here. How is my opinion supposed to guide you when I don't know what you're doing and my voice is not being heard? What are your goals to effectively reaching out to people like me who aren't getting this information, and I'm not up on, you know, my heritage because I don't have the connections. I don't have someone who is feeding me all of my information. I have to go out and actively seek it.
Good question.
Good question. Ron.
I thought Sharon had to go first this time. Not Sharon. Sharon. Very good question. A difficult one to answer, so my best response at this point is give me your contact information and I will get to you. I will contact you myself personally. So give me your phone number, give me your email address, and I will contact you and we'll have that discussion, we'll have that dialogue of what it is you want to learn from me, what it is I can do for you, and what it is you want to share at the pizza meal table. So that's the best I can offer at this point. So if you want to share with me your contact information, I will definitely get in touch with you.
Thank you, Ron. Sharon?
Thank you. So my role as vice chair, and then we have regional councilors. So regional councilors are the ones that you would be connecting with, and I think that question is more suited for that. I know that we try to get out and engage everybody, so when we have town halls, we might not have your contact information, and we're trying to invite everybody, because those town halls, they're lots of fun, I'll tell you that much. You get to ask a lot of questions, and sometimes we don't have time, but we've got to get back into that. And I know that during COVID, that's when we started the town halls. So, and eventually, because we're going into our constitution talks and self-government, we need to hear from everybody. Your voice counts and it matters. You know, it really does matter. When you're talking about people feeding you information about your family, that was me. I had to do my genealogy myself. So back in 1999, my father got his citizenship card. In 2000, I went knocking on the same door and they said, oh, I'm sorry, you need to have genealogy done. And in the files was my dad's birth certificate and his baptismal certificate. That was it. And that's what I started with, and I did not know anything. And I can tell you, people that are supposed to be your family, they're kind of also skeptical, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want from me? You know, like, so it was a very difficult thing. And I understand where you're coming from, but I'm sure everybody here, we're like a big family, and I'm sure that you talk, you're probably related to half of them.
My goal would be to improve communication, advocate for the gaps where obviously you're not receiving communication and emails and information from the Métis Nation of Ontario or from our council. So advocating to ensure that that information is up to date, reaching out, having an opportunity to connect with you and hear what it is that your needs are. I mean, the last month we've had an opportunity as an elected body to receive a number of communication for our citizens, and I can say that a lot of it bounced back. There was a lot of people's information that are not up to date. You know, it requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, and maybe that's a place where a registry might need some more assistance, ensuring that we are reaching out to all those citizens that we're receiving bounce backs when we're doing elections and votes and debates, whether it be at community council level or at PCMNO.
Well, I sure as hope I'm not one of those people you haven't had communication with.
Get anything, sorry.
So I don't have your email, because for all of you folks in the room, I have emailed, phone called, sent you things in the mail, been on social media, had in-person gatherings, and shared.
Facebook, that's it.
Yeah, so we need to connect and update your registry information, because that's what it tells me right there, is that your information actually isn't updated. And so we need to get that figured out, so you can get that type of contact information. Okay, yeah, we'll talk offline, but I'm actually really proud to say I was the first candidate that came out with their vision, voice, and values for this campaign. And outside, there's two of us that have a platform, and I'd really be interested to sharing that with you, because that's what I hope people are voting on, is their platforms. So let's chat about it, because those need to be readily accessible for folks. When we talk about exercising your right to vote, it also means having an informed vote, so.
You checked your junk mail. I checked, okay, yeah.
You stole my answer. Megan, I get that comment a lot. Sharon and Ron have 30,000 citizens they have to email. Regionally, we have close to 6,000. I can tell you by the emails I've sent out how many have bounced back. Probably got lost in spam filters wherever they go. I would ask what platforms you're on, what you do use, and then I would check your information against the contact information the registry gives us for the election, and I would let you know. It's not that there's an intention to leave people out. We are all, as candidates, scrambling to be inclusive of everybody, but when it falls through the cracks, we are all looking to fill that crack, heal it, whatever it takes to get it fixed, because communication is key. When I've helped harvesters fill out their harvester applications, or when citizens have come and they've put their email on their forms, and I look at it and go, that's chicken scratch. I'm sure the registry inputting that is not putting the underscore where they should, or something's being dropped. So absolutely, if you're not getting the communication, we'll do everything we can, all of us, to make sure that every citizen gets what we're putting out there. Thanks.
Have 5 minutes emails that time.
We gotta keep on. Are you getting your Voyager?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
then there's a
yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what.
Hello there, my name is Wendy Weiss. I'm from the Georgian Bay Métis Council, and my question is, I've heard a couple candidates speak about what they've done for the community. So my question is, what have you done for the community, the people on the ground who need the support in the past 6 to 12 months? And how will you transition what you've done on the ground into this new role?
Okay, so that would be difficult for me. What have I done on the ground? Because I'm seeking re-election. So I can't
I don't know if I can answer this, because most of my stuff is more regional based. You know, I sit on committees for regional things, so, you know, I can't talk about that because I'm not part of, well, my council, I'm part of my council, but I'll just pass because I can't.
Thank you, Sharon. Ron?
Well, my work is involved mainly with the Georgia Bay Metis Council, so I've been doing a lot of education with the members, offering cultural workshops, so leather craft workshops. I've had a couple of conferences, cultural conferences, and so it's just helping the citizens learn about their culture and answering the questions about, and that's it, ideology, I guess, out of that too. So we purchased from Hubert Charlebois, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Hubert Charlebois. He was trying to get an genealogy field, and we purchased his database, so I've been helping a lot of citizens as well complete their applications and learn about their family history. So, but I'm not certain how I can transport that to the position, like Sharon says, as PCMNO vice chair. So a lot of it, I guess, would be continuing to advocate for education, money to the councils for education and for cultural activities.
Great.
Thank you. I'd wait for the applause tonight. Everybody's getting tired. So we've been busy with a laundry list of things to our council, from food securities, the food hampers at Christmas, the Every Child Matters house raising campaign, the rendezvous, health support initiatives that we've started, hunter safety courses to educate our harvesters around harvesting and harvesting practices, but mostly to infuse them with the idea that harvesting is community oriented, and to try and make them understand that you're not just hunting for yourself or just for your family, but to consider giving to our community pantry, which we have probably for the last 3-4 years always had wild game in it now because of that. We have several members of our council and former members. Heather's here, Wendy's here, Jessica's involved in that, Mickey's here. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but they can tell you that Christmas time, when we've been doing the food hampers and other initiatives like that are helping citizens, they are at tears when we're delivering to their door or when they come. Every month we do food hampers and produce days. And every second Wednesday of the month, we have people almost in tears thanking us for those initiatives that we do. And we'll continue to do. We continue to look for source funding. We did a grant writing workshop again recently. We had some members of the Moon River Council and citizens attending. And we've used those as launching to find funds to support what we don't have funds for otherwise. So the Heritage Project would be one of them, food securities being another one. We did the Métis Business Expo I spoke of earlier. I don't think, I'm getting crossed out on the thing there, so I could go on and on, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
So I sit at the PCMNO table, which directly approves the funds for all of those things that just got listed, or not, if not all, a good chunk. The PCMNO, the money gets approved at us. But when I think of as the president of the youth council, I'm not going to sit here and list off those things because it's my council, and it's through their dialogue and my dialogue with young people that tell us what they want us to do. So our youth wellness retreat, we took 14, 15 youth out, non-political space. Politics was not allowed to happen, which is hard for Métis people, to just exist on the land in community and ask those questions that young people want to know. Right? The Youth Leadership Conference that happens every single year. This will be my first one since its inception that I'm not hosting. These are the types of things that actually all come out from listening to citizens that we employ. MNOYC takes our own money. We, up until a couple of years ago, had got no money from the MNO. Every single penny we take and reinvest back into the young people based on their ideas, and that's what I intend to do. Listen to citizens, find the money, and reinvest it back into those exact citizens' needs.
I can follow that. When I move up to PCMNL, that's what I'd like to do. But beyond that, sitting on the council role with Georgian Bay Métis Council, as Greg has pointed out, there was a number of initiatives that we worked for as a team and as a group together to ensure that the citizens were receiving, like food security. But there was a number of initiatives that I initialized on my own and executed. Majority of them were connecting with the citizens right on the land. So I did a lot of things with forging and bringing citizens together to listen to their stories, to get them out of their homes during a pandemic and connecting with their communities and family members. I did the community garden, which was about food sovereignty and bringing back to the community and the citizens. I did a lot of connecting with them on teaching those skills so that they can move forward and have that for a lifetime, as well as a number of other activities where I negotiated with federal government with Truth and Reconciliation and got free admission to places that brought us together, where we hosted other venues like Moitrema with Discovery Harbor and the Rendezvous. There's now free entrance to those places for our citizens to gather and be connected, as well as with Bly Marsh and St. Marie Mountain Hurons. It brought forth just a way and a presence where we could gather more than just an inside space and an office and a table, but connecting on the land with all our citizens. I plan on doing that going forward. Those behaviors haven't really changed as I move up. I still want to be on the land. I want to be connected with all those and hear your stories and move forward with the actions that you want to see within an initiative. Thank you. I don't know if that's 30 seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay, we do have one more question. There was a couple bribes out there to take another one, but we're going to go to one more question, and I'm going to ask President Froh for closing remarks, President Shanks, and then we'll go to closing prayer.
Hello. So I noticed a huge gap in the teen years. I see a lot happening for the kids under 12. I also see a lot happening for adults, and I see things happening for kids that would be, well, not kids, youth, I guess, over 20. I just see, and it's hitting me personally at this point because my kids are 14 and 16, and I got them all charged up about being Métis. I've had them, I played them fiddle music, I'm doing everything I possibly can. But now, I'm finding a big wah-wah. They're teens, and they have a unique way of seeing the world, and they don't want to participate in a lot of things. And I'm just wondering what you guys have in mind to draw that group out, because that's a 10-year at least window that they're not participating. And we're getting the ones under 12, but I'm just seeing my kids' generation, just kind of, my niece as well is 18 years old, not interested. I think it's a very unique, they need very unique experiences and something drawing them out. And I'm just wondering how you guys plan on doing that if elected.
Thank you. Nobody wears timekeeper.
Yeah.
So just recently, within the last year, our council has started to offer cultural workshops for youth between 12 and 16. So we have a moccasin making workshop coming up in May. We just finished, Jessica just finished the hand drum and rattles, and what else do we have? Our youth who just came online is going to be very active, and so I would expect that we would be talking to the youth reps in the province, to MNOYC, to try and engage that age group. There's a gap in there, so I'm not involved with the youth, but if there is a problem with the services not being offered to that youth age group, and all I can say is that we would work with the MNOYC to make sure that they're engaged.
Thank you, Ron.
Oh, yes, I forgot we have youth drumming.
Sharon?
Yeah.
Thank you. So my youngest is 33, and that happened with me. And I also have grandchildren, so I see now how engaged my 6-year-old granddaughter is. She wants to, everything Métis. When I grow up, I'm gonna be like you, Grandma, you know? But then I'm afraid the same thing is going to happen. Right now, we get funding that's specific for different things. So we can't just say, okay, we're gonna take that and we're gonna put it over here. We can't do that. But again, what I keep talking about, self-government, that will change. So if that's a priority for everybody in the room, because I know it's a priority for me, because my kids then kind of were not involved and didn't want anything to do with it. And as a young child they were, and then that years of them just, and when you need them to be focused on something. So I have to say, we need to be all together, and when we talk about self-government and constitution, think about all ages, because it is important. I don't want my grandchildren, the same thing is gonna happen to them. I don't want that to happen.
Perfect. Well, you brought up a specific age group, and I think around that age group, they're starting to learn to be independent, wanting to figure out who they are, and obviously wanting to encourage the Métis culture in that, and not want them to step away. So having opportunities where their voices are heard, like Jordan's been bringing the youth to the table and having that opinion and their voices heard. So I would want to help facilitate within our community councils more opportunities for the youth to be there, to be in attendance, to have their voice, and to advocate for volunteer opportunities where they can learn and grow, inspire them into leadership roles in politics. Look where we are, we're Métis Nation of Ontario governing. This is the time when we should be encouraging that age group to want to be leaders and want to grow and develop. So ensuring that it's always on the back of my mind that, you know, our youth at all ages and all different categories are being represented.
I feel specifically targeted by this question because I'm actually the only person at this table who can rightfully speak from a young person's perspective. Also as the democratically elected representative of youth, 16 and up. But what you're flagging for me is actually something that we've heard consistently. So the Métis Nation of Ontario Youth Council represents 16 to 29. That's a big age range. I'm 29 years old. It's been a hot minute since I've been 16, even though I just used the word hot minute. But one of the things the Youth Council, I can say, is they've been incredible in trying to recruit folks, not just that are young adults, but also having folks on the Youth Council that are in that 16 to 18 range, because they understand it a lot better. And what I can say is that another Giselle will be stepping into the role of youth representative on the PCMNO, and they have that mandate. That has been flagged, the 12 to 16 has been flagged, and it will continuously be a conversation. And that's why we have a youth representative on the PCMNO, and that's why we have the president of the Youth Council. So these exact issues can get flagged, and they can work behind the scenes to try to see what can be done for those in-between ages.
Thank you. I think that question is more glaring because in that age group, we don't have any of them in this room right now. And that, you know, indicates a problem of how to get them engaged, how to get them out, not just for an event or something special for them, but in everything that is Métis, so they have the maximum education that they can and exposure to our culture. Right now, through many of the programs, our funding comes in silos, specific to age groups and age ranges, including elder supports and stuff like that. Our council has just recently been successful in getting our new youth rep a $1,500 grant to do something with the youth around gardens, food securities, tree planting, something to do with environment, courtesy of the Southern Sound Environmental Agency. Something else the council has inputted to, and Ron is working diligently on it, is an opportunity for potentially $50,000 a year for grants for the next 3 to 5 years that will have inputted specifically to all age ranges, but that one as well, because we are seeing a growing interest in it, and we need to figure that out. So, thanks.
I would ask President Fro to provide closing comments and put the timer on.
And actually, Hank, Greg beat you to that. I want to start by thanking my parents. No, I'm just kidding. I want to thank everyone for coming out, all the candidates for coming and sharing your vision. I think what I've heard, so I've been listening and also visiting, lots of people between COVID and cancer, I haven't been around a lot, so this is really wonderful to see everybody. So thank you for everyone for the hugs. But been listening to the questions, both from the council and from the floor as well, and you're hitting on all of the issues that we grapple with all the time, whether it's communication, the issue around programming and the age limits and the gaps, whether it's around governance and how do we ensure good Métis governance within our communities, right? All of these things that you're talking about are things that we really care about and we're working on addressing, never as fast as we want, obviously. And there are so many factors that are beyond our control. And those are things, that's just a reality we have to deal with. So just what the chair was talking about, when we get program dollars, they're geared by other governments to say this is for this age range or this is for this specific task. Sometimes we have some flexibility, sometimes we don't, oftentimes we don't. On that issue around the age piece, this is something that the Youth Council have been advocating for a long time. We actually are in the process of negotiating a K-12, a kindergarten to grade 12 sub-accord under that Canada Métis Nation Accord. Just like we negotiated for ELCC, we have an ELCC sub-accord that we signed, 10-year long-term funding that enabled us to actually create an ELCC branch and create programs that support things like daycare. So citizens are getting support for daycare, supporting early learning educators so that they understand who the Métis are and they have the resources to ensure that Métis kids actually learn that they're supported properly. With the K-12 sub-accord, that will then open the door, long-term funding, that'll allow us to actually start targeting programs in that K-12 range. Kindergarten to grade 12, not age 12. So that is what we are really pushing for right now, which will allow us to do that. And in the meantime, there are things, both through the Youth Council, so things like the T-Series that we co-host every month where we talk. In fact, our last one, we had high school students and young people like in the college age, university age, talking about this election and how they can get involved, running for office, getting involved in campaigns, actually getting out there and voting. Recently, I was at the March Break Camp, grades 10, 11, and 12, again in that age range. I had a chance to talk to them about the election, and did they know if you're 16 or older and you're a citizen, you can vote in our election. There are some windows that we've been able to create for that age range, but there's, especially in the 12 to 16 range, there's a huge gap. And I just want to acknowledge that gap and to say we are working to address that. One of the things, I was just chatting a little bit with Loma, during COVID we had the ability to get funds that we had a lot of leeway around administering. And I can tell you things like those funds to support what do you call that, outside of school? Extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
That was so important. So many families said thank you because this is so hard. And in fact, when the COVID funds dried up and we had to can that program, we heard from a lot of people saying, why are you canceling this program? Right? So the realities that you're hearing from folks that are currently serving and others that aren't currently serving, it's absolutely true. We are very limited, but self-government really is the answer because self-government will allow us to truly be determining our path, making those decisions based on the needs of our citizens. That involves all of you. That involves being able to know who you are and how to communicate with you, hearing your needs, hearing your concerns, working with our councils, working with our regional communities to figure those things out, and then putting the programs, the services in place to address those needs. Right now, I think we're doing a really good job. We're doing more than we've ever been able to do in the past, but there is so much more we're going to be able to do under self-government. And we actually are so close. Like so close in a way that our ancestors would never have imagined that we'd be in the place that we are right now. But as I said in my intro remarks, this is not easy. On any level, it's not easy. It actually takes a lot of work. The good news is Métis are not afraid of hard work. And we always do that. We always roll up our sleeves and we get it done. That is what we will be doing over the course of the next 4 years. And I want to say to everyone that stepped up to serve, thank you. Merci for that and your service.
Now I am thanking and looking at all of you and all of you. And I'm thanking you for showing up. I'm thanking you for excellent questions and even better answers. I'm thanking you for stepping up. Now you need to step up. Make no mistake, Your participation in this election is important for a number of reasons. You not only need to vote, you need to get your family to vote, because people are watching. Our community, the MNO, is under a great deal of scrutiny, and people are going to draw their own inferences if there is a lousy turnout to vote. So you get your brothers, you get your parents, you get your grandparents, you get your sisters, your adult children, get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. May you travel safely in the hands of the Creator.
We hope you were able to watch this meeting and gain some more insight into which candidate you think best represents you. Merci for watching, and we'll see you down the river.